not give up, obviously, right? Because it's not going to be always a smooth road. You will find obstacles here and there. You will find you stuck. So you have to learn it on your own. And I think the first thing that I would suggest is to find a community, find a friend, do programming together. At least you have some mental support, right? Instead of doing things on your own. Because as I said before, this is not an easy subject, If it is so easy, then everybody would be a software engineer by now.
Welcome back to the Sigma School podcast. Today we have Kaiz here. So Kaiz, maybe could you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, so my name is Kaiz and I'm a senior software engineer here at Sigma School and also a tech lead.
So just to begin, a couple of questions. What were you doing before you were in tech?
Right, so I think my journey was a bit fascinating, I would say. Because before I never imagined myself to be in this position, because tech is not always something that I found my passions in. So before my early days, I was actually I was a student, and then after finishing my high school IGCSE, I was in Malaysia at that time. And I wanted to, obviously like do something with my life, right? But then tech was not that popular back then, I would say, because it wasn't. It was during in 2014, 2015 era, so it wasn't that popular. But then I was actually just exploring a bit of like different courses, right? But then I found that, okay, computer science is something that I want to look into. Obviously, it's just like a plan A and plan B. I'm just trying out, different plans. But yeah, and then even though I wanted to pursue any other, software engineering degrees or computer science degrees, it wasn't in my budget anyway because it's crazy expensive, going to a university and all that. Back then I didn't have enough money, and I was just like, I just finished my high school, so I was just trying out different options. And I'm not from a rich background anyway, right? So yeah, I think I didn't go to university back then, but then I was actually like working on different jobs back then, part-time, doing full-time, part-times, because just to save up some money in order to go to the university. And then I found that after some, that was my life before tech. Yeah. So, and then after that, I think I'll share a few more, later.
Okay, thank you. So just the starting questions we have for you. Why tech? Why do you choose tech?
Right. So I think, as I said before, right, because I never find myself to be in this position because obviously I wasn't a tech guy. Even though I was a computer enthusiast, but that's not something that I want my life to be focused on, right, in the future for long term. So the reason I chose tech is because it's not because my parents or my friends forced me to. It's actually due to, because after I finishing my high school, right, I was doing part-time works and full-time works here and there. Like I work in many different industries, man. I work in like F&Bs. I work in like car mechanic shops and all those different things. I was just trying out a few things, but then I realized, okay, this is not something I want to be doing for a long time. Obviously, because I need to build my career anyway, right? So then at that time I actually met a friend who said, hey, why not you decide to learn some computer stuff like HTML, CSS, web development stuff. And it was actually my dad's friends, basically. He was he is an IT guy anyway, but he told me that I should do something that can be used for a long time. So then I started learning, HTML and CSS using W3 School. I'm not sure whether you guys have heard it, but it's a very popular website. And I also use a mobile app called Solo Learn. Basically, I taught myself HTML, CSS, and then I built like a very simple website. And then I found that, after I learned that, and then I wasn't confident in JavaScript. I just learned HTML and CSS. Anyone can do that anyway. Because right now it's very easy to learn HTML and CSS, which is like, it's like a building blocks, right? Then after that, I built a website, which is for my personal. I mean, like, I was just playing around with them with my coding skills, and then when I find the result, right, I was like, oh my god, this is something that I want to do, because I can literally imagine something, and then I can like picture it in my head, then I can draw it out, and then it will come to life eventually. But it's just using HTML and CSS, right? That's when I realized, okay, I this is something that I want to pursue in, but not because I mean, like, I was just like trying it out, yeah, and the hard parts, yeah, will eventually catch me on later.
Get back to. Okay, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting story. So the next question: why can anyone do it?
I believe anyone can do it, because I mean, like, tech is not something that is like I mean, like, even though a lot of people says that tech is not for everyone, which I tend to agree. Sometimes it may not be for everyone, because it's not an easy subject, obviously, because if it is easy, then everybody would be a software engineer by now. It is not easy, but it can be done, if you actually put your time and effort into it. Because for me myself, right, I didn't just learn that in like a 3 months or 6 months kind of thing. I was learning, within 3 months. After 3 months, I was able to build one website. Okay. Then I didn't stop there. I had to eventually learn up, a bunch of, like, I'm still learning now, I mean, to this day as well, right? Tech is not something you learn once and then you can make profit from it. You have to constantly keep up to date with the latest technology. Nowadays, I mean, like, right now, the trend is AI, right? Obviously, machine learning and all those. But, if you back forward to around like 2 to 3 years prior to that, what was the trend? It was Vue.js. It was like a bunch of frameworks like React, Vue was competing each other. I believe Vue.js was actually competing with React back then. A lot of people actually decided to learn Vue.js, but then after that, it kind of just faded out. Right now, no one actually talks about Vue.js anymore, but it's still popular, right? So that's the thing with tech. Trends will rise, but they may not stay there forever. So you will have to eventually keep up to date with the latest technology. And and I think anyone should be able to do that, as long as they are able to commit their time and resources into it. Should be able to do it. As I said before, it's not an easy subject, so you have to put your hearts out. And I think even especially if you are going to be self-taught, because when you go to a university, you have your lecturer, you have your classmates, you have your typical CS syllabus there. I mean, of course, you will learn, but then if you do not practice it, regardless of whether you have a master's degree in CS or something like that, it's eventually going to be useless anyway. Because I've met people that are with CS degree, and they can even do proper problem solving in coding. But then I've also met self-taught developers who are very good at like solving their own programs, creating their own programs, but then they are not hired by any companies, obviously, because they do not have the paper, right? But at the same time, I think it's not to bash one another. It's just to speak from experience, right? I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's just that practice makes everything perfect. So yeah, I think that's the answer. So I think everybody can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think not just for tech, but since we're talking about tech, as long as you do put your time and your effort and your heart into it, I think anybody can do almost anything they want to do, as long as you actually really do it. So thank you very much for the answer. That was really good. So the next question is, why now? Why do you decide to do it at that moment? Why not tomorrow? Why not next week? Why not next year?
I think now is probably the best time to learn, because obviously right now, I mean, a lot of people are saying that, oh, okay, you don't need, I mean, like, don't be a programmer anymore, because it's good, programming is there because AI is gonna eventually replace you. Yes, I mean like it will replace you, but in the next 10 or 20 years. Okay, not now. Because right
Yeah.
now, okay, think about it, right? For example, let's say like because when we say AI versus human, right? I think might be a bit off topic, but let me just quickly, clarify why AI is not going to replace humans. So, for example, let's say like a company A, okay, they let's say like replace all their human programmers with AI, okay, and after that, let's say like they are ready and they deploy their server to Firebase or Google Cloud, okay. So after that, the AI will be I mean they're doing that for them as well, right? So the AI is going to take your code and then it will upload to Google Cloud or Firebase, and let's say like you're done, okay. Now later on, after like 1 or 2 months, you realize that your cost for Firebase project is triple. So instead of 700 ringgit per month, it goes up to 70,000 or something like that per month. Then you realize your code is something wrong. Your code is like there's a bug in your code which is causing the right requests simultaneously in the Firebase project. Okay, now how would you fix that? Okay, because you I mean like you do not know how to fix that, obviously, because you just know that because your cost is too high, right? And if you have an AI, yeah, you can ask AI, but the AI is not gonna be like know what causes this issue, because even it did build that project, but it didn't actually, I mean like it cannot optimize the cost of your Firebase project, right? So that's done by the human. And I've done a lot of deployment to the Google Cloud and Firebase, you're right. The cost optimization is very tricky to do, which I do not think can be, I mean like it's not something that has been proven that can be done by AI before or something like, right? I mean like AI can code, obviously, right? AI can code, but AI cannot like do DevOps stuff, or I mean like, it may be able to do some of it, but when it comes to cost optimization and like other stuff that requires human inputs, it may not, it may be able to help, but it may not be able to replicate all of the humans interactions. So yeah, I think that's the thing. So if you are going to learn now, I think eventually I believe AI is going to catch on, right? AI is obviously very developing fast, so AI will catch on eventually. But yeah, I mean like, if you're going to learn, I think now is the best time to do it. Yeah.
Very true, very true. I mean, now with the current trend of AI, I don't think it will replace it anytime soon, even 10, 20 years. But what will be replaced is programmers that do not know how to use AI. They will be replaced by the ones that know how to use AI.
True.
That is why I
Yeah.
do agree with you. We should start now. Okay, and the next question
Yeah.
before we go into the deeper questions. So, where are you? Where are you now, and what are you doing now?
Right. So right now, I think I am with Sigma School, obviously, right? I work. I mean, I do a lot of like uh, tech stuff, but I mean, like mostly I do coding, but I also do project management on the other hand as well. So yeah, I think how I got here is because as I said before, I mean, I didn't go to university or anything. I'm a self-taught, just like any other developers. So yeah, right now a lot of my projects involve AIs and NLPs, which stands for natural language processing. So NLPs is mostly like, it's not an AI, it's to process natural language. So if I input something like, hey, how are you? It knows that, okay, this context is from what, right? So this is asking your health status, or, it's just a greeting message. So that kind of thing. It's not an AI. So a lot of these, I mean, I do a lot of those. And on the other hand, I also do like a DevOps stuff, like deploying the, once you have a proper code base, I package it up and then I deploy it to Google Cloud and Firebase, which can then be mapped to a URL. And then it can be used by software, I mean like other consumers, right? So that's my day-to-day task.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Sweet. Okay. So some of these questions are going to be a bit similar, and maybe you can also share a bit as if you were explaining to a friend that had no coding experience. So
Right,
I think can you share how you got into programming and what was the biggest thing that sparked your interest in this field?
right. I think first of all, the thing that sparked me the most is having an ability to build your own thing and to control what you build and to be able to have full customization on it.
Mm,
Imagine something that you can picture in your head, and then the next day you can actually build it out, and then you can sell it, right?
wow.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that no other careers have, right? I mean, like, even if you are a doctor or if you are a surgeon, you cannot do things like that. I mean, like, yeah. So that's the thing that sparks me the most, and obviously it should also encourage others to see how this kind of thing is gonna be. I mean, like, even when AI replaces your day to day, software engineer, the software engineer is not gonna go broke or anything like that.
Yeah.
Why I believe that is because there's a lot of like um, freelance opportunities out there as well, right? And you can work from home, you can work from anywhere, right? And also another big thing is that the AI is gonna eventually replace human programmers, but if you look at countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, not Singapore, sorry, Malaysia, right? These countries are still in the process of development, right? They're considered developing countries.
Yep.
So those countries won't probably be the first one to replace, human programmers with the AI ones. So they
Correct.
will. I mean, like, they are still in demand for human programmer, right? But eventually, even if they were able to replace that, then we still need like AI engineers, right? Prompt engineers and all those. So those are still software engineers at the end of the day, right? I mean, like, you can be a prompt engineer because if you know how to use how to code, right? And you can also learn up ML stuff once you're a software engineer.
Correct.
So I think they are, like, quite related. So it should be able to fairly switch careers. It still falls within the IT industry, but then there are sub industry within that big industry, right? So you
Yeah.
can switch
Correct.
between one another and then just play around and find which one is more suitable for you. So yeah, I think that should probably be the way it is right now. At least how I imagine it's gonna be in the next 10 years or so. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Definitely agree with you. Like the biggest thing you probably can get out of being a software engineer or anybody in tech is the problem solving skills that we learn. And AI
Yeah.
will not be able to replace the problem solving skills, or at least not anytime soon. But yeah, thank you for your answer. So next question. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you first started learning to program? And how do you face these challenges over time?
Right. I think eventually, when I first started learning programming, right, I know that a lot of people were in similar position as me. Because when I started learning how to code, the easy part was learning, HTML, CSS, which is very basic stuff. I think
Yeah,
everyone can do it. I mean, nowadays kids are learning HTML and CSS, right?
yeah,
Um, so, but then after that, I jumped into programming language, which is JavaScript. So that was my very, very first programming language, and I had no idea how it works, and it was very hard to actually grasp, the concept of loops, the concept of recursions. I didn't understand any of it, right? So those were my biggest challenges. But how I overcame is that because and at the end of the day is it's worth noting that I mean, like, there was no Chat GPT or AI or Microsoft Copilot back then, right? You have to figure it out on your own, and I have no community support as well. I mean, like my family is not from computer science background or anywhere, right?
Yeah.
My family doesn't know that. My brothers do not know that. So I had to eventually figure it out on my own. And how I overcame is because you see the thing with the programming is that once you are stuck with a subject or let's say like once you are stuck in one bug, right, that you face in code, yeah, how do you solve that? Probably the first thing that you will do is you will Google it, right? And
Correct.
if you cannot find an answer to it, you will actually like ask it on Reddit or Stack Overflow.
Correct.
Nowadays, a lot of people won't do that. They will just go to
Yeah.
ChatGPT and then, yeah, I mean, like, it's easy, right? Because the AI is gonna give you a straight answer.
Correct.
Back then, I didn't have that. I had to like, open up like 10 plus links, and then just read through every step until I found my solution, right?
Correct.
That's why I have like a 10, like 1,000 plus bookmarks still in my Google Chrome profile.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you can see how, yeah, I think the only thing that actually that I regret is yeah, not having a companion or a colleague. I mean, like, not having a companion meaning that it doesn't have to be always a human or an AI. It can because someone to actually support me and like a friend lah, basically, right? Just to learn together. So when I face some problems, I didn't have to, like scream in my head and just figure it out on my own. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the only thing that I regret. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. It's very amazing how you overcame these challenges. Because I think back in both my time and your time, there were no AI, there was everything was Stack
Yeah.
Overflow or you Google or you just trial and error until you get it done. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
very amazing that you got to where you are today. So the next question, could you tell us about one project or one coding challenge you overcame that you are particularly proud of? Why was it so special to you?
Right. I think the problem that I overcame is the first problem that I solved was what was that? It's a recursion based problem. Oh yeah, Sudoku solver. Okay,
Oh,
now yeah, Sudoku solver is requires a backtracking algorithm. You can Google it. You know how it works, but it's a bunch of recursions, right? So how the Sudoku board works is that you have a numbers and you have a blanks there, right? And in each square you cannot repeat the same number, and in each row you cannot repeat the same number. Same goes for the columns as well, right?
yeah.
So that's the thing with Sudoku, and I had to I was using Peter Novick's algorithm.
Mhm.
Peter Novick is I think he's the founder of I don't know, he's quite big as well, right? So yeah, so I think that was the. Let me just Google who is Peter Novick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a. Yeah, I think he's a professor at Stanford University. So quite, I mean, like, genius guy. So he has this blog. He had a blog where he wrote, "How do you solve a Sudoku board using programming?" Right?
Mhm.
Using that. So basically, he created an algorithm, and I had to use my. I mean, like, I didn't. He wasn't actually giving me a like a customized solution to it. He wrote down an algorithm that explained in English terms how do you find a number that fits within this square box, right? Blank box. So something like that. So I had to eventually like read through his entire blog and then build my own
Wow.
algorithm. But I mean, like, it's still using the same principle as his
Yeah.
implementation, but it's just that your every implementation, or even though they're all using the same principle, um, the code that you will write will be different, right? From most users, from his code as well. So I think it's the same thing for 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, how do you get to 2 plus 2 plus 4? You can easily like 1 plus 2 plus 1, still 4,
Yeah.
right? So it's not always going to be
2 plus 2.
the same, you know, method.
Yep.
Principle will be the same, right? But the result will be the same, but not the implementations. So yeah, I think that's the thing, and that was the my proudest project that I've done, and it's still on my GitHub to this
Okay.
day. Yeah. So I actually ran a benchmark on my platform as well, showing how fast my program was able to solve the Sudoku boards. So for easy, I had like a 3 sets of benchmarks: easy, medium, and hard puzzles. The easiest ones were probably the fastest, and the medium ones are like a medium, and the hardest one are probably the slowest, right? So
Yeah.
um, yeah, my program was basically able to solve all of those, from easy, medium to hard. And yeah, I think it's definitely something that I am proud of, and I mean, like, I always recommend my students as well, right? Someone who is um, after graduate. I mean, I do not always give these kind of projects to students who are still graduating, right? I ask them to explore it on their own and then just try to replicate what I've done here and
Mm.
see if you can do that. Once you can do that, I think that kind of projects, and that kind of like another project that I've done is a Dino game, the replica of Google Chrome. Google Chrome has an offline game where you
Yeah,
can
the
play with
space
the
bar one,
keyboards.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I did replicate that kind of that one as well. So yeah, I think those two are my biggest, and also they eventually, I mean, like, they're small anyway, right? But it shows you that you know what you are doing, and once you are able to submit that to your companies that you are applying for, I think those projects will probably stand out. Yeah.
Definitely. So, these two are your biggest and proudest ones, but what was it that make it so special for you?
I think the special one is probably that one Sudoku solver, because that was my first and hardest project, right? And I still find to this day, when I Google what was the most hardest um, algorithm projects that you guys have done, they're all like Sudoku solvers. They're all Sudoku
Mm.
solver,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I think it's the yeah, I think it's quite great that these kind of things are still there. And that algorithm was written in 1986 or something like that. It's very,
Oh,
very
that's
old,
very long ago.
but it's still applicable to this day. So you see, the programming is not dead, right? I mean, like, yeah, if you ask AI, okay, ChatGPT, to solve this kind of things, what will it do? It will use the same principle as Peter Novick's implementation, and it will give you a straight answer to it, right?
Mhm.
But then you see, AI was able to learn. Why? Because there was already a solution for him, right? The
Correct.
written solution for him. So that solution was written by who? Human, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's the answer for you. So no AI can actually, like, because if there's no, I mean, like, it can eventually learn up by its own, but yeah, it needs context.
Correct.
So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, thank you. I'm quite excited for this next question because I haven't heard the full story. So, if you
Okay.
are currently employed, how do you land your job? And can you share any key moments from your job search and interview process?
Right. So yeah, as I said before, I was self-taught, and after doing a bit of like programming, I had like after learning HTML CSS, I started looking for a job. Um, just after learning HTML CSS, because I'm like, I was broke anyway at that time, so I started looking for jobs. I mean, like, I started doing freelancing projects on various different freelancing sites, and yeah, I never got a project there, right? So yeah, so I think but then when I was doing those, I was learning JavaScript as well. So, and then after learning JavaScript, I still wasn't convinced myself, okay, that now might be the time to start applying, looking for jobs. And I actually landed one interview, but then I got rejected because I wasn't able to solve the algorithm. I mean, like they give a proper. I mean, like they are very old school, so they will give you an instruction, and you have to solve it using
Mm.
your screen, right? So yeah, so that was my first interview, and I failed it. I mean, I'm glad I failed it, right? Because if I was hired, then I would be asking myself, why did I get hired? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think and after that I went to a boot camp called Recode in Malaysia, which is a free coding boot camp for refugees. Okay. So I think you may know this story before, but that's where I met Derek there. He was actually learning, he was actually in the same boat as me. He didn't want to go to university, and he was actually like, you know, learning on his own. And he found this, oh, okay, this is a free coding bootcamp. Maybe I can meet some like-minded individuals there, right? And yeah, I think that's the thing. I went to the Recode, and I met a lot of like people there, right? At the start, we were around 30 plus people, and it's a very intensive boot camp.
Mhm.
We use Ruby on Rails, programming language. And by the time we graduated, there were only like 6 people. So you can
Mm.
see that out of
Wow.
30 plus, I think around 24 or 25 dropped out. So
Wow. Big
yeah,
number.
big number probably. And the code was very, I mean, like, the bootcamp was very intensive as well, right? So yeah, I think that's where I met Derek. And after we graduated, I mean, like we actually were a good friend, and he was he when the instructor there, whenever he give us a task, we would solve all together. So he was, I mean, like, he would help me out when I'm stuck, and I would help him out whenever he's stuck. So basically, you can see how um, community helps in terms of
Yeah.
like learning. When learning programming, right? Because I didn't have that when I first started learning programming, and I'm sure Derek didn't have that as well, right? That's why we actually came to this bootcamp. We realized, okay, because it's a free bootcamp, what could go wrong, right? So that's the thing. And and I think after that, Derek was doing his own ventures, and he asked me to join him on his own ventures. And yeah, and I told him, why not, because I was free anyway. So yeah, and that's how we actually um made it happen. And they were actually there was another guy who was Ming. So basically, yeah, basically I met a lot of people during this journey, and yeah, all of them helped me out. And yeah, obviously the first thing they did was to actually believe in me, obviously,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, during that time I was still a beginner, I was still learning, right? I mean, like, I didn't know, I was nowhere near to this level.
Yeah.
Not like I'm a wizard or something like that. I had to, yeah, I had to like learn it on my own in order to get here, right? So yeah, I think that's my journey so far. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very interesting story. Because I've done a podcast with a couple of people as well, and we can see that everybody's journey is so different. And maybe just by coming and joining our Sigma School Bootcamp, you might even start up a company with another one of your classmates. You never know. So many,
True,
many
true.
different ways. So now
Yeah.
that you are a software developer, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a software developer? Do you wish there was anything you already knew when you were first starting up?
Right. So I think the first thing that they want to probably I mean, like, the advice that I would give to newcomers is to not give up, obviously, right? Because it's not gonna be always a smooth road. You will find obstacles here and there. You will find stuck. You will always be stuck if you're not gonna get out from there. So yeah, so it's not always going to be like better way. So you have to learn it on your own. And right now, I think the first thing that I would suggest is to find a community, find a friend, right? And do programming together, right? So because at least you have some mental support, right? Instead of doing things on your own. Because as I said before, this is not an easy subject, if it is so easy, then everybody would be a software engineer by now. So and the second thing I would suggest is not, I mean, like, okay, make use of the AI right now, because it's so much easier to learn nowadays, because you have like a chat GPT, you have Copilot, right? Everything is there for you. You just
Yeah.
have to like make use of it, right? So it's much easier to learn nowadays. But then I would ask, or I would suggest, that you do not use any of those. Okay, you use them only when you are when necessary, when you're solving an algorithm, and you are stuck. You found an error that is unexplainable. So you take this code, you ask ChatGPT, right? And then uh, tell it specifically, do not tell me an answer straight away. Ask me where to look for a solution, and how do I fix that, and how do I prevent that from happening again, and why did it happen. So that way you learn, okay, there was a memory leak in the code, there was this bug that I didn't do, so blah blah blah, and all those. That way, next time when you are in when you're doing the same project, you won't repeat the same mistake twice, right? So that's the suggestion that I would give. And also is to yeah, I think the most important thing is to not give up, and obviously use online resources. I'm sure there are a lot of like online available resources, free code camp, Odin project, and all those. You can actually like go to those websites, uh, do some projects there, and then push it to your GitHub. Okay, have a LinkedIn account, and push your updates daily, right, onto your LinkedIn account. So that way, recruiters can actually see, oh, okay, this guy is actually very good. He's gonna be a very good intern, or he's gonna be a very good junior developer. Because you see, nowadays juniors are probably the hardest to actually get into the software engineering roles, right? And when you go to an interview and you say that I'm a junior software engineer, software developer, and the interviewer is going to ask you, okay, can you show me some projects? But then if you are not going to be able to show any of your projects, then yeah, they probably won't gonna hire you, right? But if you post daily on your LinkedIn, and then you have a list of collections that you have done, your portfolio, for example, your website, right? You post it on your website, they will actually see it before you do, right? And they will actually like look through it. Okay, they will say, okay, this guy, the opportunities will come to you, right? Instead of you going to the opportunities. So yeah, I think that's the very important steps. And yeah, and one thing that I regret was I didn't do this back then, because I didn't have my own portfolio, and I didn't even have my LinkedIn profile anyway. I never posted my projects or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even after I solved my Sudoku solver, right, which is very big then back then, I didn't realize that it was this big, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not good enough, right? That's the very important. I think that the confidence is also very important in when it comes to junior developers, because they may lack the confidence, like yeah. So I think just post it on your profile, and the people that who are judging your profile will actually see that, so that you don't have to like bring it up in the conversation and then say, okay, hey, look, I have done this project, can you see it? They will actually find it, they will actually look by themselves, and then they will actually decide whether they should hire you or not. But if you have good enough projects, I don't see why not, right?
Yeah.
They're probably gonna hire you. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very true answer. Like number one, your project definitely like it gives you a very big edge over every other junior developer, especially even if they have no projects to present. And number two, I
Right.
think doing the project really gives you like the end-to-end flow, and you can explain every single step and your thought process behind it. And I think the last one that you mentioned was actually the most important, where the confidence and mindset plays a big role. Because I think a lot of developers, don't just say even for the junior, even the senior ones, we're always thinking we're not good enough. I think it's called imposter syndrome. But I think the most
Yeah,
important thing is
imposter syndrome. Yes.
you just need to like do it. You just gotta take the first step. You gotta learn from your mistakes. You gotta learn from your failures. You gotta get back stronger, and you gotta do it again. Which is why I'm sure that's what you did. I'm sure that's very good advice for everybody starting out there. And I hope that everybody just wants to take the first step. Okay, and the next question, I think you've already answered this as well, but how do you stay updated with new technology and the industry trends, especially with how fast everything is growing these days?
Mm. Yeah. So I think I mean, like I'm a different kind of type of guys because right now, um, for example, let's say like there's a new game coming out, right? How do you do it, right? You will actually find it on Steam, right? Or like EA app. Let's say like for example, I think let's talk about um FIFA, for example, right?
Okay.
Football games. So now I think FIFA 24 is out within last year, and the next year is gonna I mean like this year is FIFA 25, right?
25,
So
yeah.
yeah, so everybody, I think a lot of gamers will actually want to buy, that game, and they will actually like um play it. They will actually start competing within that game.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
so you see, that's the new game, and there are already players in there that are actually competing each other. Okay, and then the first one in the leaderboard is probably gonna get rewards or something like that, right? That way, a lot of people, and it's the same concept within software developers as well, software engineering world or software industry, right? There's a new framework coming out. A lot of companies are companies like to try big things or new things, right? They're gonna try out this framework, um, and a lot of developers are gonna start learning within this framework. So, for example, let's say like a Google, right, which is a very big company, created a programming language called uh, Go. Okay, Go was created by I think Google. Uh, is it? Yeah, I think Go was created by Google. Actually, it's owned by Google, I believe. Let me just. Oh, sorry, not Go. Yeah. Let me just rephrase it. Flutter, for
Yeah,
example.
no
Flutter
worries.
was created by Google. Yeah. So Flutter is a framework which uses Dart as a programming language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Flutter is a framework, and then when it first came out, because it was created by Google, right, which is a very big company, a lot of developers were actually like learning it up, right? And
Mm.
now look at it, a lot of companies actually use Flutter, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and the job market is still open to this day, right? A lot of companies are still looking for Flutter developers. So as I said before, right, it's still that whenever there's a new tech coming out, you do not need to always learn up every new single npm package that comes out every second on npm library, right?
Yeah.
That would probably be wasteful of your time, right? See if the new framework is actually worth learning. When I say worth learning, see if it is from like some gibberish companies, or some actual companies like Google, for example, Microsoft, right? um yeah. For example, let's say like JavaScript and TypeScript, right? TypeScript was created by Microsoft, which is a subset of JavaScript, right? And because it was created by Microsoft, nowadays every single companies every single code base uses TypeScript, right? A
Yeah.
lot of big projects is actually adopting TypeScript already. So TypeScript is a very, very popular programming language, which is still part of JavaScript. So yeah, so I think that's the thing with the programming. I mean, like with this within the software industry, you will, I mean, like, find, okay, so another way that you can figure out whether this tech is worth learning or not is check whether it is open source or not, first of all,
Mm.
right? Because Flutter is open source, TypeScript is open source, JavaScript is also open source, right? Every single thing that we have talked about in this context here is also open source.
Maybe
Um,
for our viewers, you could just explain quickly what open source means for them.
all right, so the open source mean it's the source code for the implementations of TypeScript is open. So for example, let's say like a TypeScript. TypeScript is a programming language. How it works in the background, I mean, like, if I want to change some information, something in TypeScript, or I want to fix some code in TypeScript, if it's closed source, right, then how would I know it? I probably won't, right?
Yeah.
I cannot find the source code, and then I cannot fix it. So a lot of programming language are open source. So yeah, so I think that's the cool part of open source, is to actually be able to pull the source code and then do whatever you want on your own, or even you can repackage it and then resell it. And now that depends on the license of the open source program that you just clone,
Mm.
right? So yeah, so I think see if your tech or if your framework is open source, and then if it is open source, then only I would suggest to only continue with the open source project, because a lot of closed projects dies actually, because it depends on the companies
Correct.
that it developed, right? So
Mm.
once the company dies, or once it goes out of the business, then that software is also going to die as well. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Um, and also see how many stars it has. So for example, it's just an optional thing, but you can always check how popular it is. So if it is like a 1,000 star, then yeah, why not start learning it? But if it is not, then yeah, just forget it. Yeah,
Okay, very good way of keeping up with the latest trends and all, and making sure you don't spend time on
a lot
unnecessary
of time. I mean,
trends.
like right now there's a lot of like frameworks as we speak right now. If you go to npm library and then you actually like refresh your page, there's like a new framework that comes out every minute or so. So
Yeah,
yeah,
gotta
there's
see
there's
what's the
actually
good
a,
one.
a a package for is odd, so which can actually detect whether your number, if the input number is odd or even. So I mean,
Hmm?
like, who has time to actually create a library out of it? So
Yeah,
those are probably useless, you're right. Yeah.
yeah, very good. Very, very interesting take on that. So, okay, next one. Now that you are in your current role with Sigma School as our tech lead and our senior software developer, what kind of challenges do you face in your current role, and how do you tackle them?
Right. So I think most challenges that I face are not actually like code related. It's sometimes the challenges that I face, I mean, it depends on my personal thoughts and inputs as well, experience as well. Because sometimes the most challenges that I face are the standard that I have is that whenever I write my code, right, I have a fixed structure of how it should be done. I even have a standard. I mean, like, I have a when even formatting the code, right, I follow a very specific indentations format, right? So that configuration, I push it out to everyone, like within my tech department. Okay, they must use this indentations that I have. Okay, so and sometimes a lot of people may not have a similar taste as yours, so they may do things differently, right? They may do things differently. So if I say, okay, solve 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, then they will do 1 plus 2 plus 1, and it still equals to 4.
Mhm.
Okay, so the thing is that you have to get used to it, that people do things differently, right? And it's not the same as your own, but sometimes that doing things differently is also unnecessary steps. So for example, let's say when you are able to solve like a 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, you can actually like walk your way around it, like 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and also 1 plus 1 then minus 1. I mean, like, it still gets you 4, right?
Correct.
But you see a lot of unnecessary steps there, right? So when it comes to that, I will actually have to eventually explain to those developers that, okay, you are doing unnecessary steps which can cause memory leaks, in this program, and when the people actually use it, and it will actually lag the app or something like that.
Mm.
So yeah, so I think that's the challenge that I'm currently facing. How do I push the how do I make sure that they uses the same concept as mine? But then I realized I cannot. Everybody's gonna have their own way of implementing things.
Mm.
So you cannot force it, right? Let them have their own way or freedom of solving a problem, but only correct them if they are doing unnecessary steps, or if they are causing like a bunch of like a long ass code, right?
Mm.
Then if it is there, then yeah, your program is gonna slow down, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's my challenge. And another challenge that I face is right now is a bit code related. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to solving the actual, let's say like there's a bug in your code, right, which is not visible in your console.log, usual console.log, or maybe it's in the backend, or it's caused by some libraries or something like that. Then it's very hard to actually debug those kind of things. But one thing that I managed to overcome that is by integrating error tracking frameworks like Sentry, and uh, what's that called, Amplitude, and all those
Mm-hmm.
error tracking tools. That way, I can actually see, okay, if there's some errors within the entire code base, after I package it up and then deployed it, then I should be able to know, okay, if there's an error, then yeah, not every user is gonna have the same error, right? It's very different for each user. So that way, I was able to catch up. Okay, there's this error for this user, there's another error for this user. So then, what's causing the issue? Okay, the root issue is the same one, right? It's always going to be the same one. So once I was able to figure out the root issue, then I solve it for both. So it's like,
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's the challenges that I'm facing. But then it also depends on my experience and personal preference as well. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I think definitely the challenges as you go along time, you definitely find a better way to fix them. I think we have a very funny saying in tech, since we are both from tech out in the data, yeah, in the software field. If it works, don't touch it. But then
Yeah.
the funny thing about that thing is, like, even though we say this all the time, sometimes what is working now and we do not touch it, it actually causes a big problem down the road. Which is why
True.
what you mentioned, your other problem, backtracking, that's a very important thing. So even though it's working now, we can still backtrack to what we think did not work. So I think
Yeah.
definitely, as for most programmers actually, as you go along your journey as a software developer, as a data scientist or cybersecurity, you will always find ways to optimize your work and become better and better. And you also find how to lead your teams better, as that what you're doing now. So thank you for the answer, guys. Okay, next
No
one.
worries.
How do you see your career path evolving in the next few years? Are there any goals or milestones you're aiming for?
Oh yeah. So basically, I think for me, eventually, um I think I am gonna keep doing what I have been doing for the past 3 plus years or 4 plus years. And I think this is something that I enjoy in most of my time. Um, because obviously it's not an easy, career. But it actually is quite rewarding as well. So once you because the first of all, I enjoy this career, right? And secondly is you have to find a passion in it instead of, okay, because it pays so well, then I'm gonna do it. Yeah, then don't, right? Because even though it pays well, I know that it pays well.
Mhm.
If it's not something that you find your joy in, then I think it's best not to do it, right? Because programming or software engineering is not always a easy road, right? For example, let's say like it's also a very very responsible roles as well, if you think about it,
Yeah,
right? Let's say like you're designing a software for a aerospace company. Okay, you wrote a software for like a military grade software, and your software malfunctions within the air, causing the whole plane to crash or something like that. Yeah, it's your responsibility as well, right?
correct.
So do not take this job as easy as it is. And I mean, like, yeah, of course, it depends on. For example, let's say uh like a auto driving train system, which I think everyone knows. For example, metro, MRT, in
Correct.
Malaysia is auto driverless system, right? Controlled by just AI. It's not an AI, sorry,
The system.
software. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, let's say like the software actually makes a bug or something like that, then yeah, you will actually like cause a lot of troubles. So yeah, I think that's my saying as well. If you do not find joy in it, then do not do it. um yeah, so I think in the next few years, I think because I find joy in this field, I am gonna be able to continue doing it, and eventually after 4 or 5 years, I think I can see myself um doing my own startups, hopefully in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very
Right
interesting.
now, I mean, like, yeah, right now, not yet, because I'm still in the process of like figuring things out, and yeah, I mean, like, I have to learn a lot as well, and yeah, and also be humble. Yeah,
Yes. Correct.
yeah. So yeah, I think in the next few years, hopefully everything goes well. Then yeah, who knows what, right?
Can't wait to see you one day with your startup. I hope to hear about that from you one day. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
letting
yeah,
us know. So,
yeah.
last question. What is one thing about the future of software development or technology that excites you the most?
Oh, okay. The technology that excites me the most. I want to say AI, but I mean like AI plus, you know, instead of like I mean I can say AI, but it's still an AI. But right now, Nvidia, right, which is a
Correct.
graphic cards company, is actually has created this RTX 5090 GPU, which is able to actually like, which is very powerful GPU, by the way. And using those kind of GPUs, you can actually like train your own AIs, right?
Mm,
They will be able to run on your local machine, and yeah, you can pretty much do whatever you want with that um, AI. So I think that's the thing that excites me the most, because knowing that um, you will be able to own AI as your pet project within your own PC is something that excites me the most. Think about it, right? Having your own personal assistant within your own computer, right, is definitely a big thing, I think.
correct.
I mean, like, of course, you can use ChatGPT, but they are all like owned by different companies, right? Which means that your data is available to them. You have to sign
Yeah.
up, you have to consent your data and all those. So
Mm,
having your own personally trained AI in your local machine is, I think, a lot better, to be honest. Yeah, it's a
that is
lot better,
true.
and you can actually like make use of it on your own. And yeah, I think your data is also safe as well. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
agreed.
that's the thing excites me the most, because having I mean, like, of course, it's not gonna be cheap. You have to buy a very good GPU, and then train it up
Correct.
on your local machine. But something that's worth looking into, and I'm sure it's gonna get cheaper in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for your time, Kaiz. It's very inspiring how your story from when you were first starting out from high school, doing your IGCSE, going for bootcamp for refugees to be free, meeting our founder Derek over there, and you guys started doing this thing together for a very long time now. You also gave many very important advice that I think not many people gave, especially you as a senior. You gave advice on how to navigate your journey as a software engineer, how to improve your coding, and how to tackle the challenges and what makes things better. And I think above all that, I thank you for coming here and sharing so many of your interesting stories and insights. I really did enjoy it, and I hope our viewers will enjoy it as well. Do you have any closing remarks and farewells or thank yous you want to say to anybody?
Yeah, I think for new developers, for junior developers who was watching this video and start learning on their own, don't give up. I was actually in the same boat as you guys. Trust me, I never went to a university. I never went to a single university or anything like that. It's just that I learned this all on my own, and yeah, it's not an easy task, obviously, but if I can do it, then I think so can you as well. So yeah, so actually, like, don't give up, and just keep doing what you do, and yeah, make sure to ask your mentors for help and support, and also yeah, ChatGPT as well. Yeah,
That's your
but
best
only
friend.
when necessary. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much, Kaiz, for your time here today. And we will end the podcast here. Thank you for coming, Kaiz.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.